I'll never forget the day that I was driving to meet my boss, who had just returned from months at sea. And Bobby Kennedy was sitting in the back seat of my car on the phone discussing a book he was writing. I remember thinking to myself, I have a Kennedy in my car, and I'm on my way to see my boss, who is my personal hero. How did this happen? If any of you had been sitting in my car on that day, it would have looked like I had a pretty amazing life, and things must come easy for me. But your perception would have been far from my reality. In fact, had you been sitting in my apartment just a few years prior, you would have seen a very different person. I rarely got dressed, showered, or left my house unless I had to for work. I was so depressed, I would drink until I blacked out almost every night. I remember thinking to myself, death would be so much easier than living like this. I was in a deep, dark, hopeless hole. But it wasn't just my struggles with mental health that landed me there. It was also my desperation to live a more meaningful life. It got to the point where I was so scared of what I might do, I chose to set down the bottle, get myself professional help, and do everything I could to create the life I truly wanted. But I'm not naturally smart, talented, or brave, and I suffer from severe anxiety and clinical depression. I knew I would need to work on my fears, doubts, insecurities, and personal challenges every single day if I was going to succeed. And over time, I've learned to not only accept my struggles, but to honor and embrace them. If things did come easy for me, I don't know that I would be the strong, determined, incredibly resilient person I am today. It all started with my dream of going to UCLA. I knew I wasn't that impressive on paper academically, and a lot of people who knew me thought I was crazy to believe I could get in. But I really wanted to be a Bruin, so I applied anyway. I remember going to the mailbox every day looking for that big acceptance envelope. And then one day, the small envelope arrived. It was the dreaded "we regret to inform you" letter. I was devastated, but I wasn't just disappointed. It was more than that for me. I had been attaching my self-worth to the outcome of events my entire life. So I didn't see this as I had failed. I associated not getting accepted with being a failure. People had always doubted me, and I was terrified this would mean they were right, that I wasn't good enough or smart enough to do great things. But something deep down inside me said, no, do not give up. You can do this. So I enrolled in a local community college, added some A's to my record, and applied again. Thankfully, after a lot of hard work and determination, my efforts were eventually rewarded with the arrival of that big, beautiful envelope. I was so excited, I could not wait to tell my dad I had been accepted to UCLA. I was the biggest daddy's girl, and I knew he was going to be so proud of me. But that high I felt from finally succeeding came crashing down when my dad told me he had stage 4 cancer and months to live. I was completely shattered. I decided to defer my acceptance and go back to Ohio to be with him. But I knew if I deferred twice, I might lose my acceptance. I had to sit with my dying father and decide together whether I would stay with him or go to UCLA. I can still see us sitting there. Neither of us said what we were thinking, but we both knew if I went back to LA, we might not ever see each other again. It felt like an impossible decision for me. We were so close, and I didn't want him to feel like I abandoned him when he needed me the most. But he knew how fragile my confidence was at the time and how much this decision would impact my future. He needed to know I'd be okay when he was gone, so he told me that my dreams were his dreams, and I had to go. It was okay. He wanted me to go. It would be his last selfless gift to me as a father. And so I went to UCLA. I'll never forget the day I was sitting in class and got the call that my dad had died. I was heartbroken and felt utterly defeated. I just wanted to give up. But I was not going to let him down. It was not easy, but I ended up graduating with a degree in psychology from one of the top schools in the nation, just like we had planned. And it turns out my dad was right. That achievement changed me. I was proud of myself. and it gave me the confidence I needed to go after my dream job. Ever since high school, I knew I wanted to work with troubled youth, so I decided to apply to be a probation officer. After passing the oral and written exams with flying colors, I was so happy. I could have never imagined what would happen next. After all I had been through to get to this point, one single question on the background check would end up crushing my dreams. Now, in hindsight, I realize that my decision to go to Amsterdam to celebrate my graduation, probably not the best idea. But there was nothing I could do. I was out, and they said I couldn't apply again for several years. So there I was. I had my greatest achievement in one hand and my biggest failure in the other. I had two choices. I could stop believing in myself and give up, or I could choose to keep believing in myself and persevere. I chose to push forward and persevere. Now, obviously, I'm not 20. This was a while ago. It was at the beginning of my career. But still to this day, when I feel self-doubt creeping in or things don't go my way, I reflect back on UCLA, my dad, and that darn background check. The entire thing taught me a lot about rejection, setbacks, and failure. It made me incredibly resilient, which is a good thing because rejection would become all too familiar to me. And because of that, another thing I like to do when I am feeling insecure or disappointed is look at the failures and resilience of successful people I know and admire. In my current role, I'm lucky to work with a lot of influential and successful people. But one of the individuals I enjoy working with the most is billionaire John Paul DeJoria. You might know him as the founder of Paul Mitchell Hair Care and Patron Tequila. Something he says that has always resonated with me is that one of the keys to success is being prepared for rejection. Now you might be thinking, easy for him to say as some uber successful billionaire, but his path to success didn't unfold the way you might expect. He did not come from money. He actually grew up in poverty and even ended up homeless on 2 separate occasions as a young adult. He started Paul Mitchell by going door to door selling hair care products out of the trunk of his car. He had a lot of doors closed in his face, so he speaks from personal experience. I've also had the pleasure of writing for Arianna Huffington's online publication, Thrive Global. She's always been an inspiration to me when it comes to resilience. So much so, I have a picture of her on my desk that I look at every day. She's right next to Oprah. Her second book was rejected 37 times. I saw a tweet that she had put out that said, 38th time is a charm. She heard no over and over again, literally, and she never let the rejection slow her down. Since then, she has written 13 books, several of which are New York Times bestsellers. I also love Dr. Brené Brown. She's one of my absolute favorites. In her TED Talk on shame, she said TED could be the failure conference. She said very few people who make it on the TED stage haven't failed at some point in their career. That is true off the stage as well. It is the people who recognize and accept that failure and rejection are simply part of the process that cultivate the mindset for resilience and reach their full potential. And the truth is, if you never fail or hear no, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. The key is to see every no as an opportunity to find your way to a bigger and better yes. As with any goal, you just have to start with one small step right where you are and work your way forward. And never forget that 2 steps forward and 1 step back is still progress. But before you take that first step, I believe it is essential to determine what you are truly passionate about. That will not only give you drive and direction, but will also give you strength when things do go wrong. And many times they do. They did for me. So when things didn't work out with me becoming a probation officer, I ended up on a very different path. How did someone who went to school to be a probation or school for psychology and wanted to work with troubled youth end up doing public relations in Hollywood, selling real estate in Las Vegas, and eventually hosting entertainment industry parties in LA? It happened because I had lost sight of what I was truly passionate about. I had successfully climbed the corporate ladder, but I was miserable because my life lacked purpose. I had always wanted to help kids or animals, and I wasn't doing either of those things. So to fill the void in my life, I decided that I would go to work for a nonprofit. I figured it would be easy with my background. After all, I had been working with the types of people who write big checks to charities my entire career. I thought, what charity wouldn't want to hire me? It turns out, none of them wanted to hire me. Nobody would even give me an interview because I didn't have experience. I was becoming incredibly frustrated and a little hopeless, but my deep desire to help animals kept me going through all the rejection. And then one day, when I was setting up for an event, something incredible happened. I looked up and my personal hero was standing right in front of me. It was Captain Paul Watson from my favorite show, Whale Wars. Oh, I loved how he and his brave crew put their lives on the line to save whales. Now, these were people living a life of purpose and passion. The thought of meeting one of them in person was unimaginable to me, let alone the main guy. I would like to say I was cool, calm, and collected. When I introduced myself, I was anything but that. When I finally pulled myself together, I told him I thought what they were doing was amazing and I would love to offer my help. Unfortunately, Captain Watson was there for a different event and was heading back to his ship the next day. He gave me a card, but it would be a year before I saw him again. But thankfully, being Little Miss Social Media, I took a picture with Captain Paul Watson, I posted it online, and my friend Michael Schwab, who loves the ocean, saw the photo and asked if I could set up a meeting. When Captain Paul Watson returned to Los Angeles, I organized a dinner for all of us, which to my surprise would be my first interview for my dream job. It turns out that Sea Shepherd was currently looking for someone to help with fundraising, and ironically, I had just organized a dinner with Charles Schwab's son to see how he could work with the organization. Next month marks the 10-year anniversary of that night that changed my life. Over the past decade, I have had the incredible opportunity to raise millions of dollars to protect the ocean and save marine wildlife. Before I started working with the incredible team at Sea Shepherd, I could have given up so many times. But that gritty girl inside me was relentless in pursuit of her goal. And I'm finally living a life of purpose, doing what I love. I'd like to point out that this did not happen until my 30s. And working with kids, I've started my online personal coaching business with kids in my 40s. I encourage you to never give up on your dreams, even if they don't happen on your timeline. As long as you stay true to your why, which is the core purpose behind your passion, you'll always figure out the what and how. So no matter where you are in your life or what you want to do, please remember this. Successful individuals don't accomplish more than others because they have some gene for success, because they're smarter than everyone else, because everything in their life is perfect, or because they have never failed. They've simply learned how to effectively coach themselves through life's inevitable challenges. It's about choosing courage, passion, and determination over fear, doubt, and insecurity. And I am not saying you are never going to experience those feelings on occasion, it's that you must choose to push forward despite them. And one of the best ways to do that is to change your relationship with rejection and failure. It is incredibly liberating when you stop attaching your self-worth to the outcome of events. And if you struggle with mental health like me, and you need professional help along the way, that's okay. Don't ever feel bad about that. At the beginning of my career, my mom taught me something that I have found to be invaluable. She told me I should always do what I'm afraid to do. The opportunities that scare us are the ones that make us grow and accomplish more than we ever thought possible. I may not have been happy on that corporate ladder, but it was comfortable and it paid really well. It took courage to completely change my life. But that is exactly how I ended up in the car with Bobby Kennedy, on my way to see my boss, who was also my personal hero. It hit me the other day, this last year during COVID, I rarely got dressed, showered way less than I should have, and I stayed home because I wanted to live. Now I love my life way too much to risk dying. I still struggle, but I choose to fight every single day for my strength to keep going, because I am making an impact on the world and nothing is going to slow me down. I truly believe everyone can live a meaningful life doing what they love. It doesn't matter who they are, what their present circumstances might be, what challenges they have, or what anyone says. Everyone is capable of doing great things if they have purpose, passion, resilience, and a whole lot of determination. Thank you.